For the better part of these last few days, I spent most of it just going back and looking at Treyarch Zombie's storyline and just going through everything you possibly could. Radios, quotes, just in-game cutscenes, just anything you could think of. The timeline, even though the timeline didn't go all the way through, because all the other ones I went through every single radio you could go through, every single quote that I could find of interest, of course, mainly all from my own channel, and just everything I could think of that would relate to the story, all in the sake of making both this video and reminding myself of the storyline and everything we know, because we do know this is Treyarch's year for releasing their Call of Duty. I know it's not for a really long time, but I can't control myself, and I really want to talk about Treyarch Zombies right now, because the reveal is supposed to be happening probably late next month, and it's March right now when I'm recording this, but if you're watching later it may have already been revealed or something like that. But regardless, I just really want to talk some Treyarch Zombies, because it's almost been an entire year since I've actually talked about Treyarch Zombies storyline. I have talked about Treyarch games before, or recently, I should say, not before, but I haven't really talked about Treyarch Zombies storyline. That's what I want to do in this one, just talking about some questions that we are going to be hoped to have answered inside their next game, let it be BO4 or whatever it's going to be called. But with that said, let's actually talk about these. So the first ones I want to talk about are they're the ones I think will relate mostly to what's going to be happening in the game. Now, this is just from my opinion and just from what I could gather from listening to storyline. This would be my best guess that these questions are probably going to relate to Black Ops 4, and I'm going to be talking about those ones. So let's start off with the first one, and this one is quite interesting. It's actually a cipher from Garage Crovy, and I guess I'll read the entire thing through. I won't do this for every single one, because then this video would be about 5 hours long, and I don't got time for that, neither does anybody else. So this one says, the lab is almost complete. Security measures have been put in place, so the chance of detection by the Americans is very unlikely. We also have several agents embedded in the staff as insurance. We will keep the individuals on stasis, on ice to speak, and continue the specimen rotation once we're finished drawing more power from the drill. Oh, I almost forgot, the sequence for the current blood samples is as follows: SS, M, J, A, B, R. And that is pretty much the cipher that we got, and we are pretty aware of what's going on here now for the most part, and that's why I'm saying the most part, because we do know that this is a lab under Alcatraz, and we know this because that's where the transit crew or the Victus crew is being kept under stasis. So that's where we have that understanding from, and that's where we get the initials from. The blood sequence, SS, is Samuel Stollinger, then everybody else. I'm not going to go through that again. So we do know that this is the transit or Victus crew's blood, and we do know that they're on stasis, but a couple things still make me question things about this cipher. One of those is, why are they taking their bloods? Who's taking their blood? And what is this drill they're talking about? Because we thought the drill related to Nuketown, but now that we know this is taking place way before Nuketown, I find it hard to believe, especially that Alcatraz is all the way over there in California and the drill is supposed to be in Nevada. So we're assuming that the drill or we know Nuketown's in Nevada, so how the heck are they in the same place, and what's going on here? Is this a different drill entirely? And that's why I'm thinking that maybe with our next game with Black Ops 4, this could be answering what's going to be going on here, and maybe we'll get an answer to what this drill is. Personally, I think this drill is going to be something entirely new, but regardless, I'm not going to spend too much time speculating, but still, this is just one of those questions that I believe will be answered inside Black Ops 4. The next thing I want to talk about is another cipher, and this one's strange, and again, I want to read this one all the way through, because this one, like I said, it's probably going to relate to what's been going on, and this one has to do with the Mob of the Dead plane. And it says, it was a strange flight. The plane crashed. We passed through time and space in a way, flying over areas that shouldn't be there. I think there was no signs of any remains. I don't know where it landed, honest. So we assumed this to be the Mob of the Dead plane because we can't think of anything else it might be. So that's the reason we assume this to be the Mob of the Dead plane, and really, we don't know what the heck this cipher is supposed to mean. It's also from Garage Crovy, I should mention that. So maybe that has something to do with it, because obviously these two things, these last two ciphers I talked about, are both from Garage Crovy and both probably relate to Mob of the Dead. And guess what? What's the relation between those? The red eyes. So maybe that's a reason, but again, we just don't know too much. But I would really like an answer to this cipher also. And this next one is another cipher. I believe this one is from Drostan, if I'm correct. I could be mistaken, come to think of it. No, I think it was from Drostan. I mean, excuse me, Drostan. Yeah, but I guess I'll read this one all the way through again. In the beginning, there were only the keepers, but then the corruption of the Dark Ether leached its way into the realm and twisted the minds of some keepers. These keepers turned to the shadows and they turned to shadows of oh my gosh, can't speak right now, but they turned to shadows of them former selves and eventually became the Apothecans. And this is something we've already known about for a while, but something that we've still questioned for so long is the Dark Ether. And I just remember this is also from Royale. This isn't from Drostan, so this is another thing from Royale, and we just don't know what's going on here. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but a lot of these are probably relating to maybe Mob of the Dead or Royale. I think those two maps may be linked in a way we're not aware of just yet. And that's another question that I'll get into just right after, but for right now, what's a Dark Ether? Because we know there's an Ether, we know there's Argartha, but then we have to throw into the mix a Dark Ether. So what's going on with the Dark Ether? Another thing that we just don't know what's going on with. So there's a new thing to question, and this one I forgot to write down, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now. But I hope we get an answer to the eye color of zombies, because we have believed that yellow means Samantha's controlling, orangish means Zamaxis, and then Richtofen's blue, and red we just never knew. But ever since Black Ops 3 came into play, we just didn't know what the eye color meant anymore, because Royale never explained why they had red eye zombies, and inside all the other maps we never were explained why they had yellow. So we just don't know right now what eye color means anymore, because we do know for a fact that for some reason they changed blue when Richtofen took control, and we're not sure if it's because Richtofen's in control. I doubt that now personally, but we just think it may have had some effect. We're just not entirely sure right now. But one thing that I do find interesting is that you think about what color the Apothecans mainly, I guess, use. It's rather blue or red, and the reason I say blue is because of the Apothecan sun, and that's completely blue. And if you think back to it, the Shadow Man said that Richtofen used to listen to his every command, and once he took control they became blue-eyed zombies. So that may be something. I don't know. This, again, I shouldn't be speculating because this video is again going to be too long. This video is already going to be a long video, but still, that's just something, some other thing I wanted to mention. But now getting into this new idea, and this is really talking about the identity of maybe the Shadow Man and Monty, or at least their true identity. And these all come from their own ciphers. Two of these from Shadows of Evil, and the last one is from Royale once again, which is surprising. I didn't realize how many of these were from Royale. So the first one I want to talk about is this cipher that you guys have probably heard multiple times over. M is interested in these worthless beings, all his work will be undone. X. Now this is very strange, because we do know that M is for Monty. Now that was realized inside, what was it, Zeppelin Oshima, I believe, or it might have even been Royale. I'm not exactly sure. But we do know that M is for Monty, so they say that he's interested in these worthless beings, probably talking about our characters, and then all his work will be undone. X. Who's X? Who is X? Is it the Shadow Man? Why would Shadow Man be X? I have no idea. X is just another person I was just throwing in there that we have to try to figure out. And of course, what I love is that this was set inside Shadows of Evil and we never got an answer for it. I think that's both annoying, and I think that annoying could really be cool, because how they leave so many things, like they were already teasing at something for their next game all the way back in Shadows of Evil, which I think is really cool, but also annoying at the same time. But again, continuing on Monty and all these people, I want to talk about another cipher again from Shadows of Evil, and I'll read it off for you guys real quick. The elders will continue. Let me start that over actually. The elders will continue to seed space and time. I must lead them to a place they cannot see. So we don't know who's leading them to a place they cannot see. We're assuming it's maybe Richtofen or something like that, but that leads us to another problem, and that is, who are the elders? And honestly, I know I said I wasn't going to speculate, but I've always thought the elders were different from the Apothecans and all that. I'm pretty sure everybody can agree with that. But my idea for this, and I know I shouldn't be doing this here, but I'm thinking the elders are Monty and the Shadow Man, and where were they led? To the Argartha realm, and then they were left there, and obviously Richtofen and the rest of our crew left. So I'm assuming that the elders is Monty, Shadow Man, and I'm sure there's some other ones, maybe even the X we talked about earlier could be another one. And maybe that's what's going on here, and maybe Richtofen succeeded succeeded at his goal of taking to the elders to a place they cannot see. But then we don't know about the other elders that we presume may or may not exist. So that's another thing that was another interesting question to ask. And for the last one, actually no, there's one more after this, but here's another one again relating to these people we don't know, and this one's another cipher. I believe this one is from Gorod Krovi too. Shoot, what the heck, all these are from Gorod Krovi. I find that interesting that Gorod Krovi is so relatable to what's going to be going on in the future. But what it says is Chronorium Excerpt 2 billion or whatever it is. The life force from the dead world allows a bearer to flow with all creation. Now, this brought up a lot of problems, or brought up, excuse me, like the life force from the dead. Okay, so the dead have life force, maybe that's 115, we're not exactly sure. But then we have the bearer. Who is the bearer now? I have no idea, you have no idea. We just have a new thing thrown in there. We have the elders to try to figure out, we got X to try to figure out, and we have the bearer now. So that's another thing. But then continuing on these really strong beings, we're going to talk about the idea that was suggested to us by none other than the Shadow Man, that Dr. Monty is the devil. Now, why is this the case is the real reason why I'm asking. It's not that if he is or not, because we don't have a reason to doubt the Shadow Man, at least I don't, but it is interesting nonetheless to see why he's called the devil. This isn't really why, like, I guess it's not really to say if he's being called the devil, but if so, this is taking the assumption that he was called the devil in the past by maybe humans, probably because they're the ones who came up with the wording of the devil, I would at least presume, or assume I should say. But regardless, it seems like I would like to know, I don't know if it seems like that doesn't make sense, but I would just like to know why he was called the devil. Maybe if we'll find out if we go back to the Great War, because we do see inside, what's that map called, Revelations, we do see a zombie that's dressed up like Monty that has red eyes. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it could be relating to that. I would honestly like to see, but that's about it for like these super powerful beings, at least for now. So next one I want to talk about is a cipher that you guys have probably heard over and over. In fact, I'm not even going to read this one off, but it is the one that we at least think it's written by Dempsey after they did something. And, you know, he says, "At last I'll be finally joining you soon, my friends, cough cough, the death is near," and, you know, just all that good stuff. And he ends up dying. He says, if Monty ever found out about this place, you know, he'd be pretty upset and all that good stuff, and now maybe the children will truly be safe. And we're expecting this to be answered inside Black Ops 4. I'm not exactly sure how, but I think this one will be answered there for sure. Out of all of these, this is the most likely one, at least for me. Now, the next one I want to talk about is this question, and this is the Giants. And honestly, if you ask me, the best place to look for hints, or like the best hints for what's going to be going on inside Black Ops 4, it'd be the Giant and Revelations. Mainly Revelations, so obviously have some sprinkled in all the other maps too, like Shadows of Evil and Gorod Krovi, and obviously the other two, that's Monoshima and Dreisendrache. But I think the best hints for it exist in the two maps I just mentioned, because of multiple reasons, but one of them is the radios from the Giant. The radios from the Giant, half of them have been answered on why we got them, because when we first heard these radios, we had no idea what was going on. What the heck did these radios even mean? We had no idea. Excuse me, but the thing is that we just didn't know, and we still don't know why most of them exist, and that has to do with the other versions of our characters talking back to our characters that we were playing as inside the map. And also there was a mention of killing multiple Richtofens, which was never answered. So what the heck is going on with that? I'd like to have an answer for that. And then another really big question that I doubt we'll get an answer to, but I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, and that's the forest. Nothing more needs to be said about the forest. We just want to answer. We want to know what's going on. At least tell us if it's not important, but I'm thinking it has to be important because we did see it inside all those trailers to hype up what's that map called, Revelations. So even Monty was there, all 4 of our characters were there, so hopefully we get an answer for that. And I at least hope that we get another screen like that, like exactly, it's not exactly the same, but pretty similar, like at least we're still in the forest. Or something, maybe there's nobody in the forest, I don't know. I'd like to see a continuation of this forest story that they're telling, because I do know that the forest was pretty big in Call of Duty's campaign, or Black Ops 3's campaign that year, so I don't know, maybe it was just relating to that and it didn't have like a big effect on Zombie's storyline, but again, we just don't know. And then another one that I would love to know is about the Shadow Man wanting to know about Mob of the Dead, because if you guys didn't know, there's some radios inside Revelations where it talks about the reporter that we also hear about inside both the Rise and Rocket, but that just tells us that Richtofen kills him, but mainly we also heard him inside Shadows of Evil, and we see his dead body also inside Shadows of Evil. But he went and started figuring out what's going on and what exactly was going on inside Mob of the Dead. He went and interviewed all these people, and of course he was working for the Shadow Man and all that good stuff. So I would like to know why the Shadow Man wanted to know about Mob of the Dead. I'm really interested in that because I just want to know, like, why did the Shadow Man want to know about it? Like, seriously, I can't think of a good answer why he would think to want to know about Shadows of Evil, excuse me, not Shadows of Evil, Mob of the Dead. Just another question I'm out there, just throwing out there. Next one I want to talk about is none other than the Giants paper scraps. The Giants paper scraps are just something else. I look at this thing every now and then. I honestly will just be, when I'm bored or something like that, I'll pull up this image, this one, and I believe a couple other ones actually. I'd pull up a lot of images and look at them relating to the storyline. But this Giants paper scraps, I just don't know what to make of it. I look at it, I see things that relate to wormholes on the sides, I see things that will relate to just, I believe dimensions or maybe universes colliding, and you see also the measurement of spatial dimensions and then a time dimension, and you see this just all over, and I just don't know what to make of it. There's obviously the thing in the middle that you see a Tesseract with the KT4, oh yeah, is it KT4? No, KT4 is that, KN44, that's what that gun's called, inside of a Tesseract that's also inside a summoning key, or the summoning key. So I don't know, I'd like some answers to what's going on in those Giants paper scraps. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about, at least for this video, because I have a ton of questions for this Treyarch zombie storyline, would love to have so many answers. In fact, I had to cut down the script to a fourth of what it originally was. I'm already at 20 minutes already, so I know this is long, but I'll make some more videos like this because I have even more questions and I just want them answered. But these were the biggest ones, and I want to end it off on the biggest question, at least for my good self. And it has to do with the Revelations radios, at least a couple of them. And I know there's the Monty radios, but the reason I left those out because I think those really relate to the forest, so I didn't want to mention it twice. But the ones I'm focusing on are the radios relating to kind of Call of Dead, also Shangri-La. Because we hear an unknown woman, no matter what anybody tells you, this is an unknown woman. We do not know who she is. She's not the girl from Call of the Dead. Just not her. You gotta trust me on this. I don't want to go into an explanation why it's not her because it'd take a while and I just don't have time for that, and that's not the focus of this video. But I think she is the biggest hint, or maybe not, well, I guess hint and question mark for what's going to be going on inside Black Ops 4. If you ask me, and I could have one wild guess, I'd say she's probably going to be a playable character. And if you guys have not heard her radios, I think they're the most fascinating thing we were left with, because we hear her talk about how the Call of the Dead crew disappeared, and that's why we know it's not exactly the girl from Call of the Dead, because she's talking about the Call of the Dead crew, or not just the crew, the Call of the Dead cast disappearing, the entire cast and works thing. So we do know that she's aware of it. But then she says she finds a book of research, and then she starts hearing about things like time travel, different dimensions, and you also hear her knowing about a mad German scientist, an American, a Soviet, and a warrior Japanese soldier all working together, and she questions this, saying it's craziness, madness. but we know she's actually reading some research about our characters that we played as. That's Richtofen, Dempsey, Nikolai, and Takeo. That's who she is reading about. So what is this book she's reading? You can assume that maybe it's the Chronorium, but it gets even more interesting because she kept reading this book, and I again recommend you guys just listen to her radios for yourself, because they are by far the most interesting thing, at least to me, that we were left with Black Ops 3. And she talks about she was reading about Brock and Gary, of course the explorers, the British explorers that were trying to look for Argartha inside, obviously, Shangri-La. And while reading of it, she actually was teleported into Shangri-La, and she got stuck in a loop herself. And oh my gosh, what is even going on? Honestly, if they're going to have some characters to replace what's going on, at least with a couple maps, I would like to see what this girl is exactly happening with her and who she is and just anything about her, because we just don't know anything about this girl right now. We just don't. Like, what's going on with her? What book is she reading? Whose book is she reading? Is it the Chronorium? But I never knew the Chronorium to have the ability to teleport you places. It's just like, what? I just don't know. Honestly, I think this is the best thing, like I'll repeat it again, the best thing Black Ops 3 left us off with. But anyways, that's about it for me. I plan to make more videos like this because obviously we're talking about Treyarch here, and they have about 30 billion things that we would love to have answers to, but this is just the biggest ones, at least for me. But if I did leave some of them out, then you know, just go ahead and tell me, because I want to hear everything that you guys would like to see answers for the storyline. And I know I didn't talk about all of them. There's a lot I want to talk about. Keep in mind, I said I had to cut down the script to about a fourth of what it was originally, so just keep that in mind. And this video is already 20 minutes long, so again, just keep that in mind. But there's so many things I would love to talk about, so if you guys are interested in more videos like that, go ahead and tell me down in the comments where I can make further videos talking about this, because there's so many things. I just can't say enough. There are just so many things I want to talk about for Treyarch right now, especially knowing that it's Treyarch's here, and just about a month and a half from now we'll be getting a reveal, or about a month and a half, I guess. But anyways, tell me what you guys think about all this stuff. You guys agree with me? Hope these things get answered inside the next game. Again, like I said, anything else you would like to add to this list that maybe, I'll make it in a video in the future. But I'm just going to be quiet already, because I'll probably end up talking too much now. So I don't know, if you guys did enjoy the video, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not, bell if you just bell, because that's cool to do, and of course share the video if you want to see more videos like this, because the more views it gets, the more motivated I get to make these types of videos. But also watch a video multiple times over, that's pretty cool. But I'm going to go, and I'll catch you guys on my next video.